ku ntebe yo gutanga ku meza batangiraho ibitekerezo byubaka umuryango wa Commonwealth. Ni ihuriro rifite akamaro cyane ku rubyiruko. Uyu munsi dufite urubyiruko rwavuye mu bihugu byose bya Commonwealth kandi bose baje biteguye gutanga umusanzu wabo mu kubaka Commonwealth twifuza.
Muri iri huriro hazagarirwamo ingingo zitandukanye zirimo ibijyanye n'uburezi, harimo ibijyanye n'imihindagurikire y'ikirere, harimo ibijyanye no gutanga akazi cyangwa se kuboneka cyangwa se kurema akazi. Reka turebe ku Rwanda, urubyiruko rw'u Rwanda by'umwihariko rurungukira iki muri iri huriro?
Urakoze cyane, wabivuzeho urubyiruko rugiye kwiga amasomo rwigiraneho rumenye ibyo abandi bakora. Ubundi bavuga mu Kinyarwanda ko akanyoni katagurutse katamenya iyo uburo bweze. Uyu munsi rero urubyiruko rw'u Rwanda rwagurutse rutavuye hano kuko rugiye guhana n'urubyiruko rwavuye mu 54 baraza kwiga ibintu byinshi urwo rubyiruko rukora kuko ariko nabo barajyana n'umwanya wo kugaragaza ibyo bakora. Hari byinshi by'u Rwanda rukora, hari udushya bagenda bahanga, hari amakomite bagiye bafite ku nzego zose z'igihugu no kugira kuri rw'umudugudu, inama y'igihugu urubyiruko rw'u Rwanda ruraza kugaragariza ubundi rubyiruko ibyo byiza rufite n'ibyo rwagezeho, ariko noneho narwo rwige rurebe ibyo abandi bakora neza bityo nawe babashe kuba babishyira mu bikorwa.
Muri iri huriro kandi hateganyijwe ibijyanye no kumurika imishinga y'urubyiruko, aho uzatsinda azahabwa amafaranga amadolari agera ku 10,000 iri murika cyangwa se kwerekana imishinga no guteza imbere mu bijyanye n'iterambere ry'ubukungu ku rubyiruko. Mubona gute inyungu urubyiruko rw'u Rwanda rufite mu bijyanye no gutera imbere mu bukungu muri iri huriro?
Murakoze cyane. Ubundi ubukungu mu rubyiruko ni kimwe mu bibazo bikomerera urubyiruko kuko usanga kenshi urubyiruko rudafite amafaranga. Benshi nibwo barangije amashuri ndetse niyo bagiye gusaba inguzanyo muri banke usanga badafite ingwate, bityo ugasanga batabasha kugira amafaranga, icyo twita financial inclusion mu Cyongereza, ntibabashe gukora ku mafaranga. Iri huriro rero rizaha amahirwe urubyiruko kugira ngo bakore ku mafaranga. Urubyiruko ubundi tubazi wo kurota no kugira ibitekerezo byagutse. Ubundi umuntu ukiri muto yumva nta kintu atashobora, kandi n'urubyiruko rw'u Rwanda niko rumeze. Iri huriro rero hateguwe ayo marushanwa kugira ngo urubyiruko rw'u Rwanda rufite imishinga, rufite udushya, rubashe kubona amafaranga yo kubashyigikira, ariko noneho banabashe kugira amahirwe yo kwigira ku bandi kuko iryo rushanwa ryari rifunguye ku rubyiruko rw'ibihugu byose bya Commonwealth. Ubwo rero mu gupicinga cyangwa se mu kugaragaza imishinga yabo, urubyiruko rw'u Rwanda ruzaba ruhari, ruzumva uburyo urubyiruko rw'ahandi rubigenza mu gukemura ibibazo.
Insanganyamatsiko bigaragaza aho urubyiruko rusabwa gufata mu ntoki cyangwa se gufata mu nshingano ibijyanye n'inshingano zabo bafite, ndetse no kuba hari icyo bakora kugira ngo bahangane n'izo ngaruka zaturuka ku bibazo bihari. Rero uru rubyiruko rukaba mu by'ukuri ibyo bizagenda biganirwaho. Reka nongere rero mbahe ikaze muri ibi biganiro biri kubera aha ngaha.
Of the 2022 Commonwealth Youth Forum. Okay, so when they come in, we definitely want to welcome them with the same energy that we had from this morning and the same love, and show them that love when they come in. So I will let you know when they're coming in, but in the meantime, well, they're coming in right now, so let's go ahead and show our guests of honor some love. Please give them a warm round of applause before we introduce them. They're coming right in right now. Our guests of honor are here. The Minister of Youth and Culture is here, Honorable Rosemary Mbabazi. We also... Yes, give them some love. Give them some love. We also have the Secretary General of the Commonwealth Secretariat, Dr. Arjun Sodo. We have our guests of honor coming in. Yes, give them some love. Give them some love. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you once again to all of our guests of honor for joining us this morning. We're looking forward to officially starting off the opening ceremony with you. Fantastic. Please feel free to take your seats. Okay, Darian, should we get right into it?
I believe we shall.
Fantastic. Minister of Youth and Culture, Honorable Rosemary Mbabazi, Deputy Secretary General of the Commonwealth Secretariat, Dr. Arjun Sodo, Honorable ministers, distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all and a very warm welcome to the 2022 Commonwealth Youth Forum right here in Kigali, Rwanda. My name is Makeda Mahadio, and it's just my honor and my pleasure to be guiding you through the program this morning for the opening ceremony alongside my co-host, Darian Nareen.
Thank you so much, Makeda. And of course, the 2022 Commonwealth Youth Forum is jointly hosted by the Commonwealth Secretariat, the Commonwealth Youth Council, and the government of Rwanda, and assisted by the CYF Youth-led International Task Force team.
CYF 2022's theme, Taking Charge of Our Future, captures the aspirations and ambitions of our new generation of leaders in championing an inclusive and prosperous Commonwealth where young people are the key actors and equal stakeholders in shaping the future. It illustrates the powerful potential of young people across the Commonwealth in finding solutions to global challenges and bringing forward meaningful change in the world.
It is such a delight to see all the passionate and dedicated young leaders of the Commonwealth gathered on this amazing platform here today at this amazing CYF 2022. And earlier today, of course, we welcomed all the delegates from the different regions: Africa, Asia, Caribbean and Americas, Europe and the Pacific. However, we all know that we are one Commonwealth. So, of course, for the benefit of our guests of honor who are sitting here with us, I want you all to make some noise as one Commonwealth. And of course, can we hear it one more time for the host country, Rwanda?
Absolutely, and now that we're all warmed up and speaking of our Rwandan delegates, I'll go ahead and take this moment to invite our first guest to take the stage. Our first speaker is the co-chair of the International Youth Task Force, alongside my co-host, actually, Darian, of the Commonwealth Youth Forum, and she's representing the Rwanda National Youth Council. Please join me in welcoming Elodie Iradukunda to the podium to give her welcome address on behalf of the young people of Rwanda. Ladies and gentlemen, Elodie.
Good morning. Thank you so much, MCs, for the introduction. Honorable Rosemary Mbabazi, Minister of Youth and Culture of Rwanda, Honorable Deputy Secretary of the Commonwealth, Honorable Ministers present, respectable representatives of states and governments, all protocol observed, distinguished guests, dear fellow young leaders, good morning. Warm welcome to Kigali, Rwanda for the 12th Commonwealth Youth Forum. My name is Elodie Iradukunda, and I'm extremely privileged to be with you today. As the chairperson of the Rwandan Youth Council, I've had the opportunity to witness the will and the drive that young people have in building our future. I am in awe of the spirit of service and duty that has prevailed more than ever throughout the crisis of the COVID-19. Young people across the Commonwealth played an integral role in the handling of this crisis, demonstrating yet again the great value that lies within the drive and the brilliance of young people. In Rwanda, large community of young youth volunteers have supported daily to enable community to stay safe amidst the precarious COVID-19 period. They fast-tracked community awareness and distribution of much-needed supplies across the country. In Pakistan, Youth Action Against Corona stepped up to raise funds for monthly rations to support close to 10,000 vulnerable households in one region. All across the Commonwealth, young people demonstrated incredible leadership as they stepped up to adapt and meet the needs of the local markets, organize and support their governments in meeting those most in need. I strongly believe that we as young people are at a pivotal moment in history where we are yet again being called upon to take charge of our future. By taking charge, we assert ourselves of our responsibilities and make contributions to shaping the future. I'm also here to reassure our leaders that we have not waited to be called upon. We understand what is at stake, and we understand what is at stake when it comes to the numerous issues that our world faces today. As a generation that faces existential crises such as climate change, global pandemics, large displacements of persons, disruption of value chains that directly affect the youth, economic future, and many more, we have been accustomed to change. It is this uncertainty that we see in our world that has actually given us the skills and the will that we need to make sure that we actually affect and give impact in our society and in our community. This adaptability that I'm talking about is now an asset that we're ready to make the most out of. We know all too well that the only constant is change. The only certainty is the fact that nothing is everlasting. Over the next few days, the Commonwealth Youth Forum will explore what it means for a young person to live in the 21st century. We will explore different thematic areas, including governance, innovation, trade, employment, health, and many more, all with the aim to understand better the issues that are at hand and propose practical solutions that will inform the state of the world as we see it today. We know that these issues that I've just mentioned cannot and will not be solved by one single person, one single organ, or one single country. We face them collectively, and we should therefore work to solving them collectively. The Commonwealth Youth Forum presents us with an opportunity for that. As young people, we simply cannot afford to stand in the sidelines and not get involved in driving solutions that to our global and common challenges. I look forward to witnessing what we can achieve together in one voice, the voice of the Commonwealth. On that note, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Kim Allen, who is the chairperson of the Commonwealth Youth Council, for his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Elodie, for those warm welcome and inspiring speech you gave. Thank you so much, Rwanda, for the warm welcome over the past few days. Honorable Ministers, Honorable Rosemary Mbabazi, Rwanda Minister for Youth and Culture, Deputy Secretary General of Commonwealth Secretariat, other ministers present, government representatives who are present, Excellencies, members of various youth network and stakeholders, development partners, civil society organizations, fellow youth leaders and delegates, and also students who are here. I am deeply humbled and profoundly grateful to stand before you here this morning, given the privilege to speak to you. I arrived here on Friday and was so impressed to see the efforts and resources invested in this event. On behalf of the youth delegates, I thank the government of Rwanda, the Commonwealth Secretariat, heads of government and youth departments and ministries across the Commonwealth, all hard-working youth stakeholders, for your support towards young people. Bringing everyone together in this event is a success. This youth forum shows the tremendous effort, commitment, and dedication of all involved, including you delegates at the focus of this forum. I spoke with many of you in the morning past previous days, and I'm inspired by the great work you do in your communities and respective countries and regions. Ladies and gentlemen, this week, this room will be filled with insightful discussions on issues affecting us and young people in our communities. Brilliant ideas, solutions, motivations, and inspiration to change the course of situations for a better future. Over 1.4 billion people across the Commonwealth are below the age of 30. What does this mean for us as young people and youth partners? As leaders of today and the future, this can be a challenge. But what's more, it is the opportunity to invest in the potential of youth. Keeping in mind the theme of this forum, taking charge of our future, here are 3 points I want to leave with you. First, challenges and opportunities. The problems we have encountered in our lives and the societies have brought us all here together. Today's challenges and issues are more complex than decades ago. The world is slowly coming out of the pandemic, a crisis that affected our lives in many ways. Climate change, loss of biodiversity, hate and discrimination, economic turmoil resulting in high unemployment rates, digital divide, the mental health, inequalities in education and health, conflicts and political instability, to name a few, all happened due to human actions and certain situations beyond our control, of course. Amidst these challenges arises the opportunity to create positive change. Fellow delegates and partners, your creativity, your skill sets and ability are needed to drive the change we want. The reflections, discussions, and thoughtful and innovative thinking and a unified engagement to act are necessary to resolve these issues. So, now is the time to act. We have to progress the efforts taken in the past through strategic and transformational approaches. Correct the mistakes, make right the wrong decisions. Let us fight for a positive future we want. If we don't take concrete and appropriate actions today, we won't have a sustainable future tomorrow. At the center of our discussions and actions, we have to focus on people, the vulnerable, the old, the women and children, the persons with disabilities, the minorities, and with a wide lens of representation and inclusiveness. Let us not forget our connection with the environment. We live in an interconnected world with humans and biodiversity, so in our actions, let us be responsible actors and responsible custodians to the environment. My second point is unity in diversity. You can see in this room. This room has the energy of potential, various skill sets, and innovative and creative thinking. I noticed upon my arrival that most of the young people engaged in this event were young people, and I have hope it will continue. Honestly, I'm so impressed to see the young Rwandans everywhere, young people, testing the COVID test. There were students facilitating this. It's an impression to say that we have hope in the young people. And this gives me the courage to say that I can say with humility and confidence to the older generation and decision makers that yes, young people are responsible for taking action. Discussions through intergenerational dialogue and taking action to share knowledge and experiences and sound guidance will address the myriad of issues that affect us. Of course, we can't deny that there are issues that young people get involved into, such as violence and social issues to drugs and alcohol, teenage pregnancies, and others. As you go through the discussions, breakout sessions, and dialogues, let us, over the next coming days, let us build alliances and connect with others, not only in this event, but now and into the future to work together to resolve these issues. Let us capitalize on our strengths and opportunities, link the issues and the solutions, and address them through what you are good at, your potential. There is no doubt that everyone has a skill in doing something good. That's why you're here. Let us share our skills and experiences, learn from each other, go back home inspired and motivated to tackle these challenges. Keep those alliances you built today, this moment, strong, because you will need people on various skills and backgrounds when the issues get tough. This leads me to conclude with my final point, which is focus on people at your heart. And you are here because you're a positive agent in your community, your family, your society, and your country needs you. As you participate over the next 3 days, remember to share your experiences with fellow youths back at home when you return. Help them when you can, and empower and elevate them when you see fit in your leadership capacity. That is a challenge for you and I. Don't take time to help whenever you can and able to. Reflect on your ideas in your mind. Open your mouth to speak with boldness on behalf of the vulnerable, and take the necessary actions to realize those ideas. Sometimes it takes time, but if you keep at it with focus and commitment and the people's interest at heart, you will get there in resolving the problems. The lessons you have learned in your life experiences and the wisdom passed from the older generation are necessary to guide us and keep us accountable. In conclusion, be reminded of the theme of the Commonwealth Youth Forum, taking charge of our future. And taking charge of our future demands responsibility and dedication, strong character and values, a clear vision, efforts and skills, and a unity in diversity to achieve a desired positive future, a peaceful, sustainable, fair, and inclusive society. And I pray that may God, the loving Father, in His grace and wisdom, guides us in these discussions this week to represent our people for a better future. God bless the Commonwealth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your hearing.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Elodie, for your passionate remarks addressing our young people in the room today. Now, if you allow me, I'd like to take this moment to showcase some young Rwandan talent and what they have prepared for you, because they would like to take you on a journey. And if I could give you a pro tip, I would say do not be afraid to get up and dance for this next one. This exciting performance piece was directed by Malaika Uwamohoro, and it depicts, and it depicts a group of young people on a spaceship inviting us all aboard to take us on a thrilling launch into the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, we would like for you to help us in welcoming on stage Mashirika Performance Arts.
Whoop, whoop.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world, it is an honor to be the captains that'll launch you straight into your future. Welcome aboard onto our spaceship, and if you're ready to take charge of your future, let me hear you say yeah!
Say yeah!
Say yeah!
Say yeah!
Say yeah!
Yeah!
Oh man, we are so excited. Yo, Vinci, how far we taking it?
All the way up! Yo, Dila, how far we taking this?
All the way up. Yo, Prime, how far we taking it?
All the way up!
Commonwealth Youth 2022, how
How
far we taking it?
All the way up!
Yeah. We are about to witness the live launch into our future, and we have the one, the only, Captain Kevin Klein.
Captain Kevin Klein!
Who's gonna press that button and launch us all the way up?
All the way up!
8, 7, Critical system failure. Critical system failure. System shutting down. System shutting down.
Captain Kevin Klein, give us a status update. What seems to be the problem?
Scanning all systems. It looks like we need to generate more energy.
More energy. More energy. More energy. More energy.
Can't breathe in this city. The air's thick with carbon monoxide, my lungs might give in. The sun's rays used to be sweet and warm, turned livid, scorching the ground till it cracks and fidgets. But my mama's mama taught me how to love this earth, and now my mama's daughter, I believe in rebirth. You charge me up, we spark it up.
There's fire in the forest, and the people them fed up.
Let's
Fire in the forest.
Sister Emma brother, there's fire in the forest.
And my people done fed up.
In protest, there's fire in the forest.
1, 2, 3, let's go. Hey.
Energy. More energy. World been sick, what the remedy?
But the remedy's up to you.
Then it's up to me.
So we can make a better future, check the recipe.
Yeah.
Fossil fuels, hard they keep it cool.
Yeah.
We like the tools, be confused, kids can't go to school. Come and change, toxic rain, leaders acting strange. Time to take over for the future, time to rearrange.
Rearrange. Time to take center stage. Are you ready to flip the page?
Flip the page.
Yeah. Flip the page.
There is
Fire
fire.
in the forest. Violence. There is way too much violence.
Violence.
There is way too much violence. There is way too much violence.
Yo, let's go. Villain.
We in the shadows, we hit it.
What?
Coming to take what's yours. Better be ready for war. For the villains know I represent. Want money, want power.
My bad. Is my life not important?
Am I not worthy?
Boys and girls, they run the streets. Bad with so much to forfeit.
I got love for the motherland. That's why I serve and protect. Shed blood of my own, all for the cause. There where I'm caught upon. No fear, point period. Standing tall like a pyramid. Put an end to the trauma, chaos, and a culture of impunity. The backbone here is unity. And taking care of my community.
Immunity.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Let's go. Violence. Let's put an end to the violence.
Violence. Put an end to the violence. Put an end to the violence.
What? Violence. Put an end to the violence.
Shuba pra batam, world shuba pra batam. It's the break of dawn, but black fog has hit the sun, so the maize stalks wilter. And while poor yields at the end of the season resulted in machete deep whiplash slits on my ancestors' back, their souls would tussle and crack if they ever made it to the future of landslides and payslips, the widening of pyramid bases, like slim-waisted chicks with fat hips. This world is like a seesaw. As one puts weight to the bottom, the other sticks their head in the clouds, pissing on the ones on the ground. Shamed and burdened, we quickly harden. Struggle strangles the faint-hearted and creates a new breed of monster.
Living life on the edge every day is a quest and I'm stuck in survival mode. I cannot go on like this no more. This hunger I have is terrible. So much pain around me is terrible. I need you to look inside deep. We need change and trust me it's possible. We need change and trust me it's possible. Come on, rise up my brother. Rise up my brother. Rise up. Let's go. Are you ready? Cause Yale City born and raised in the land of 1,000 hills. I reside in the east side. A place where the young come out and play. Let's go. The way. You see the old ones paved the way. And pass the toast down to you and I. The youth, we gotta see through the cracks. Translate many game mislaid. Brain the same mistakes.
What?
We gotta break free and expand. Explore and grow beyond all kinds of limitations. Racism and classism. I pave my way, I won't pave my way. Set me all just the way that I am. Share my life, wisdom misinformed. I won't compromise, no conform. All across the world, now
3, 2, 1, let's go.
How we pave my way.
Jump.
How we pave my way. Now stop, we're gonna take it to the top.
Yeah.
now. Do your dance now. Do your dance now. Do your dance now. Go low, go low, go low. Everybody say what? I wanna be free. I wanna be free. Let's go. I wanna be free. I wanna be free.
I'm gonna be my boss, my own clock. Do it for life, don't stop. Don't do it for the gram.
I do it cause let's go, let's go.
Ah! 1, 2, 3, let's go.
Look at us glow, flexing flawlessly. Priceless jewels in the work and see that we shine. Come on, let's step outside.
This that time when we come alive.
This that time when we come alive. This that time when we come alive.
This that time when we come alive.
This that time when we come alive.
3, 2, 1. Mission accomplished. The future is in your hands.
System reboot.
1, 2. Everybody, let's go.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Woo! Let me see you get it. Let me see you get it.
Can I get a hey? Oh, hey,
Ladies and gentlemen, can we hear it one more time for Mashrika? Wow, just wow, such a fantastic, such an energetic performance out here. You know, I think I'm going to have to take some dance lessons from Mashrika because I heard that the nightlife out here in Kigali is top notch. Anybody, Rwanda, can you let me know, is the nightlife here top notch? You all in song and too convincing, is it top notch? Well, I'll be looking out for all your dance moves straight throughout. One more time for Mashrika, ladies and gentlemen, for that fantastic performance, really setting the tone for what we expect out of this CYF 2022. So right about now, I want to move into the introduction of our second speaker as well. So ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted now, I am happy now to invite to the stage the Deputy Secretary General, Dr. Arjun Suru, the Deputy Secretary General of the Commonwealth Secretariat, and he will give his welcome remarks. And of course, Dr. Suru has been a strong and passionate advocate for youth participation in decision-making and for believing in the power and potential of young people. Thank you, Dr. Suru.
Please do not expect me to repeat that last performance. I thought that is a tough act to follow. So, a very warm good morning to all of you. The Honorable Rosemary Mbabazi, Minister of Youth and Culture of Rwanda, Elodie Iwadukunda, the co-chair of the CYF Task Force and President of the Commonwealth Youth Council General Assembly, Mr. Kim Allen, the new chair of the Commonwealth Youth Council, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and of course all the youth that are listening to us today. Today marks the beginning of the 25th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting here in this beautiful country called Rwanda. Thank you for the hospitality. On behalf of the Secretary General, a deep thank you for the milk of human kindness that was given to us over the last few days. It is, therefore, perhaps appropriate that we begin this week of policy discussions, debates, and dialogues with you, the young people of the Commonwealth. Did you know of the 2.6 billion people that we have in the 54 countries of the Commonwealth? Out of these 2.6 billion people, 1.2 billion are under the age of 30 years of old. It therefore means that much of what is discussed in these coming days will affect young people's lives and prospects for the future. It is indeed, ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to join you at the start of your 12th Commonwealth Youth Forum under the theme, Taking Charge of Our Future. Your theme, to my mind, is more than a theme. It is, in fact, a call to action. I commend you for such a forward-looking, positive, and action-oriented theme. I look forward to the plans and proposals that you will share with leaders and stakeholders in the coming days. Ladies and gentlemen, to millions of young people, no doubt, the last few years have been very challenging, to say the least. The COVID-19 pandemic has created new threats and exacerbated existing challenges and barriers. Every day, many of our young people around the world would wake up to a growing list of new and harsh realities. I believe our first step in the right direction begins with the recognition that our youth population is our greatest untapped asset. No matter which way we look, the hurdles are high. In the shadow of the pandemic, many of you are being deprived of the usual opportunities and denied even the chance to live your lives as you would want to do. Sadly, today, there is talk of the COVID generation, something that we've never heard before. A generation of young people that unfortunately will be left behind as a result of the pandemic. I know that unless urgent action is taken, you as young people will likely suffer severe and long-lasting impacts from the pandemic. And here is the reality. The reality is that we start with the World Bank. The World Bank is forecasting another global recession. The pandemic created the largest disruption of education systems in history, affecting nearly 1.6 learners in more than 190 countries and across all continents. There is absolutely no doubt that the challenges are many and sometimes seemingly insurmountable. But the one thing that we do know is that the last few years, despite how hard they have been, these are no match for the human resilience. So I am not surprised that this forum is themed Taking Charge of Our Future. This is a bold and powerful theme that echoes a fighting spirit and a resilient mindset. Excuse me. This particular forum on youth empowerment is so important because the engine of resilience is often youthful perspective, youthful exuberance, and youthful innovation. As you begin the Chogam 2022, you set the tone for what the rest will do. Every year, our Commonwealth Youth Awards unveil impressive feats and innovations, conceptualized and executed by exceptional young people. We do a grave disservice to all in our communities when we fail to harness this exceptional talent and vitality. In our recent cohort, a young Ugandan showed us how to deal with the global threat of plastic pollution. He found a clever way to turn plastics into eco-friendly energy. In the Pacific, a young woman showed us how to transform waste into furniture and thereby empower girls and women in the process. Meanwhile, a young Pakistani found a way to bring clean water to poor communities. Given the huge potential and ingenious proclivity of our young people, we cannot simply afford to exclude young people from the development process and equate youthfulness with inexperience and ignorance. This is really utterly, a stupid thing to believe in. Young people may be everything, but they are certainly not inexperience and ignorance. This dangerous and damaging discrimination will hold all of us back from achieving our full potential. Today, I, through the Commonwealth Secretariat, we call for a bold approach and strategy that sits at the heart of the Commonwealth mainstream youth. Make young people's capacities and rights an integral dimensions of the design, implementation, analysis, and monitoring and evaluation of conventions, legislations, policies, programs in all political, economic, and social spheres, and at all levels, so that young people can enjoy social equity. This strategy, ladies and gentlemen, will engage young people to address equality through processes and measures for equity, justice, and fairness for all groups of young people, particularly the marginalized one. Youth mainstreaming is built on the concept of equitable, intergenerational relationships and fostering of mutual respect between adults, young people, and other cohorts. I also believe the first step towards harnessing this power and potential is unfettered access to quality education and empowerment for everyone, regardless of gender, cultural or economic background, or even location. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, this education must be geared towards bridging the digital divide and ensuring that every young people is aware of and able to use the technologies and innovations available today. Education and training should prepare young people for leadership roles. This is why one of the planned outcomes of this program is the launch of a Commonwealth Alliance for Quality Youth Leadership. This alliance will engage no less than more than 100 million young people by 2030 in a non-formal education and training opportunities. The Memorandum of Understanding with the leading partners will be signed later on this week. As for the Commonwealth, we are committed. We are committed to choosing the path of empowerment of our youth. And this path will not be easy. It will not be easy to build back better. But if politics is the art of the possible, then as one of Africa's great sons, Chinua Achebe, said, and I quote, "Art is a man's constant effort to create himself a different order of reality from that which is given to him." We don't just sit and hope that things will work out. We have a role to play to make that come true. End of quote, Chinua Achebe. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, youth leaders, I wish you all the best with your deliberations and hope to receive your plans and proposals to demonstrate what taking charge of your future looks like. And I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sado. We would like to take this moment to acknowledge the Commonwealth Secretariat's work and commitment to youth empowerment and youth development in the Commonwealth member states through the Commonwealth Youth Program. The program will be celebrating its 50th anniversary next year in 2023, marking decades of efforts in creating an enabling environment for youth development and, of course, for engaging and empowering young people throughout the Commonwealth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure to present you our guest of honor, of course, to make her remarks this morning, the Minister of Youth and Culture, Honorable Rosemary Mbabazi.
Good morning. We found some energies in the house. What happened? Good morning. Thank you so much. Now we can sense your presence. The Right Honorable Dr. Aljon Sudo, the Deputy Secretary General of the Commonwealth, the honorable ministers that are representing the Ministerial Task Force for Youth in the Commonwealth, our speakers, the previous speakers that spoke so eloquently, and you feel that you have nothing left to speak about, Ms. Alodi Iradukunda, the Rwanda National Youth Council chairperson, Mr. Kim Allen, the chairman of Commonwealth Youth Council. I was telling him, you look like Rwandese. I was speaking to you in Kinyarwanda. That's the beauty of being in the Commonwealth. The members of parliament representing youth present here, our esteemed partners, the young people, our esteemed young people from 54 countries. Good morning once again. Allow me this time to request my colleague ministers who have traveled all the way representing the Commonwealth Youth Ministers Task Force to rise up for recognition, starting with our chair, Honorable Minister from Uganda, and colleague ministers, just rise up for recognition. Yes, colleague minister from Ghana and others are here. Thank you very much for joining us. I think the rest are also on their way coming. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rwanda, as my colleagues mentioned. Allow me to convey the warm greetings from the President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, and the people of Rwanda. His Excellency, the President, would have wished to be with you, but to be here in person, but I know he is with you in spirit. He knows you're here. And he appreciates all your efforts you're doing within your communities. It is my utmost pleasure to officiate the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Youth Forum 2022 under the theme, Taking Charge of Our Future. We have waited for this moment for so long, but here we are. The pandemic, as they mentioned earlier, hit us so hard, disrupted all the sectors, all our plans and goals, but we have come back stronger and more devoted to achieve more together. The Commonwealth, as they mentioned, the Commonwealth family accounts for 2.5 billion people, and of which 60% constitute the young people below 30 years of age. But the theme of this year's forum could not have been a better time to speak about it than now. In Rwanda, we have positioned the young people at the center of our nation's transformation. As this presents many opportunities to leverage their potential, innovation, and open their minds and imaginations. The Youth Forum was curated from young people's ideas by determining the topic of discussion, but also having the majority of their peers sitting on various panels that you are going to hear for the next 3 days. Dear young people present, this forum will not only set a comfortable slot for you to share ideas, exchange and network with others, but also will leave concrete actions regarding your active involvement in decision-making, trade, entrepreneurship, environment, information technology, to mention a few. I encourage you to build networks that will turn into long-term markets needed for your innovations. Create innovations that respond to the problems within our communities. I am sure you will leave here with more knowledge and transformed mindset. If we refer to what Mashirika, the performance, had this morning, which was very energetic and exciting, I want us to speak and reflect on what does it mean to take charge of our future, especially the young people. It shouldn't be a slogan. It should be actionable. What does it mean to say we take charge of our future? I want to ask you some few questions and you can keep on thinking about it. Is your future in your hands or in someone else's? Are you present to take charge or you only procrastinate? I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do it in the evening. I'll do it next week. Next week becomes next month. Next month becomes next 6 months, and on, and you don't take action now. So are you present to take charge of your future, or you only procrastinating? Are you doing what is necessary to create your future, or you leave it to chances? Are you determined to leave the world a better place than you found it, or it's someone else's duty? The mindset of the people who take charge of their destiny, I want just to highlight a few, but you must be having also a lot, because I think you thought about the topic and the theme of today. I believe these are people who are present. By being present physically, spiritually, psychologically, economically, name it. Are you present? Do you think about what to take the charge of the future means? They are present. They organize their lives. They are self-disciplined. They keep time. They are responsible. They are responsible and responsive. They adapt to change. And I think we saw this mostly during the COVID pandemic. We never knew that this would happen. But people who survived are those who adapted and were responsive to the current challenges, and they became relevant. They don't make excuses. We don't want to have leaders who have a lot of excuses. So no excuse leaders who won't say, no, it's not me, it's someone else, pointing on others and forgetting about ourselves. Do we have no excuse leaders? They know trust and respect is earned and not given. You don't expect to be respected or to be trusted just like that. You earn it, you work for it. You don't take things for granted. They always say, this generation is a generation that takes everything for granted. They don't know the elders or the old generation have worked so hard. But we know every generation has their own mission and their own challenges. So are we taking charge of the current situation, the issues that we have today? They make mistakes, yes, admit, and learn from it. They love to be counseled, and they seek advice. They have values that define them. They are not swayed by every wind. To be swayed by every wind, to be taken by every group that comes. Let's go do this and that, and you lose focus. If you don't stand for anything, you fall for anything. Please think about it while we're here for the next 3 days. What does it mean to take charge? Do I have these kind of traits or attributes that make you someone in charge of your future? And what does it mean to have? Can you go alone? Do you need others to go along together? How do you create this network of like-minded people? For the partners, I'm very pleased to express our gratitude to the Commonwealth Secretariat that is represented by the Deputy Secretary General. We are so grateful for the great work you're doing. For the Commonwealth Youth Task Force, this work you see was done by the young people, totally the task force of 21 members. I want to request them to stand up for recognition. Alodi and your team. Alan and your team, rise up for recognition. These young people did a lot of work, tireless efforts. Thank you, thank you. Thank you behind there. You can have your seat. They worked tirelessly to come up with an action plan, to come up with the program, the content, the list of delegates that would come, and every detail. We were only there. They always say, we want you to give a blessing. I didn't change anything. I would say, I bless everything. It's wonderfully done. And so we come here and take credit, yet you are the one who did all the work. You did the legwork. So I want to appreciate the young people for the great work you've done, for their tremendous support to the organization and delivery of this memorable gathering that you can all enjoy for the next 3 days. We have also witnessed partners joining us and our efforts and contributed enormously to the content of this forum, and more importantly, they offered significant financial resources and support. I wish to recognize MasterCard Foundation, One UN, UNDP, Prince Trust International, PTI, Digital Opportunity Trust, Malaria No More, Global Green Growth Institute, World Vision Rwanda, Imbuto Foundation, and many more for your contribution. I want us to give them a round of applause. As I conclude, allow me to wish you a very lovely stay in our beautiful city of Kigali. Enjoy our hospitality. Also explore the country beyond the conference settings, and please plan to visit once more and keep on tweeting, say, visit Rwanda, so that people can visit and come and see what you enjoyed. There are other places we're talking about, are we going to have fun? The Deputy Secretary General asking about, are we going to be able to have the moves of the young people here? Yes, in the evening you can move around the city and you learn more of Kinyarwanda dance, and you can go when you're an expert in your own country. I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Asanteni. Murakoze.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your passionate and inspiring address.
I always forget this. I take this moment to officiate this forum. It's open. Thank you so much.
Murakoze namwe. Thank you so much. Yes, it is officially open.
We are ready, and we are energized and about to enter into our sessions almost right away. But first I need to break down, I need to let the people know what is going to be happening.
Darian, that would be so helpful. You know, it's my first time. You've been before. Let us know what we can expect.
All right, great. So, firstly, I just want to let you all know that this is an opportunity to discuss issues and change action. How can we be the change that we want to see? The theme will be broken down into sub-themes. Of course, we know our theme. It's right up there to the right-hand side, taking charge of our future. And it's further broken down into sub-themes: governance and the rule of law, technology and innovation, sustainability, environment, climate change, and blue economies. 4, youth and human capital, inclusive, equitable, and accessible opportunities. 5, trade, entrepreneurship, and employment. And 6, health and COVID-19. So you might be wondering what to expect next, what's going to be coming up. Of course, we have our plenary sessions, which everyone will attend. So the plenary sessions will be held right here. And then we have our youth action labs, which has a maximum capacity, but there are several youth action labs happening simultaneously. So you have the opportunity to participate in any of those. Right now, you can take the opportunity to download the app and, of course, sign up for those youth action labs, or check your email. It should have come through on your email as well, the email that you use to sign up for the CYF, and you will see a Google link there, and you can sign up for the different youth action labs. So I encourage you all to do that as soon as possible. Yeah?
And I know that they will. I have already seen some of the selfies that were posted earlier this morning when we did our challenge for the hashtag Chogum 2022 and hashtag CYF 2022. So of course, as always, make sure that you're still using those hashtags. And I did want to mention, if you need a prayer room, it is on the 2nd floor. It is the Ingaji room, okay? So when you need that facility, it is there for you. Now, we have come to the end of the opening ceremony, and we will be getting into the plenaries. What's the first one that we can expect from us?
So I'm very excited for the plenary that is about to come up here. Of course, it's talking about taking charge of our future, and we have a very dynamic speaker who's coming up to take up that space. But I just want to say one more time before we enter into that, I want to say a big thank you to the host country here, to the host government of Rwanda, and to all the youth of Rwanda as well. Your hospitality has been second to none. I mean, it has been fantastic being here. You all are always so amiable, always so welcoming. And I just want to say, Dabakunda.
But you said you wanted to say thank you, and I taught you how to say thank you this morning. We all learned it. Tell us thank you in our language.
Let's go through that lesson one more time. I think we need it one more time.
What? Murakoze tiane.
Murakoze shane. Yeah?
There we go.
All right.
There we go.
Fantastic. So moving one time into the next session, well, our first session actually, the plenary session, I would like to welcome to the stage our moderator, Mr. David Tuvi from the Spruik Network.
David, the floor is yours.
Everyone, Waramutse. Do you remember? Waramutse Neza. Turabashimi Etiani Makeda na Darian, thank you so much. We are very grateful that you have joined us here today. My name is David Tuvi, and I will be the moderator for this first plenary panel discussion. And I'm incredibly excited to welcome our distinguished guests today to talk about how we can take charge of our future. Today's panel will be an intergenerational discussion with incredibly passionate individuals from across the Commonwealth who you'll get to meet in just a moment. Now, we've heard this morning that there are 1.2 billion young people across the Commonwealth. Can we give a shout out for all these incredible young people all across the Commonwealth? We've also heard that we need to have a bit of a system reboot from the Masharika performance. So we have 1.2 billion young people. That means we have at least 1.2 billion solutions to the problems we face, whether it's climate change, whether it's biodiversity loss, whether it's the health challenges we may face. So we have an incredible opportunity to, thank you, we have an incredible opportunity to draw on the power, the potential, the passion of young people all across the Commonwealth. I'd now like to begin by inviting our esteemed panelists to the stage. And as I call out your name and read your biography, please come and join us on the stage. I'll begin with Rijve Arifin, the co-chair of Awareness 360. A big round of applause to Rijve. Rijve is an award-winning community development practitioner and dedicated youth activist. He was recently named among the Forbes 30 under 30, which is incredibly cool. And he was highlighted as the featured honoree for social impact. He also received the Diana Award for his humanitarian work. He works at the UN Global Compact as the Target Gender Equality Advisor, and he is the co-founder and co-chair of the global youth-led organization Awareness 360. He's also a Royal Commonwealth Society Fellow. So a big welcome for Rijve, please. I'd now like to welcome Kaylee Mycroft, who is the co-founder of the Kaylee campaign. Kaylee is a globally recognized ability activist, having awarded the International Children's Peace Prize, the Medal for Social Activism from the Nobel Peace Laureates, and the World of Children Youth Award. In 2017, Kaylee won the Turner Social Change Prize, and in 2018 was welcomed as an Obama Foundation Africa Leader. In 2019, she was appointed to the Global Board of Generation Unlimited, a global initiative housed under UNICEF. So a big round of applause and welcome for Kaylee. Thank you. I'd now like to welcome Kendall Vincent, who is the Caribbean Regional Youth Chairperson. Welcome, Kendall. A big round of applause for Kendall. Kendall is an impact-driven, multi-dimensional professional. As the chairperson of the Caribbean Regional Youth Council, Kendall is a thought leader who is passionate about the holistic development of children and youth. He's an experienced public relations and communications professional within the not-for-profit sector. Welcome, Kendall. It gives me great pleasure now to invite Chido Mpemba to the stage. Chido is the Special Envoy on Youth, appointed in the Office of the Chairperson of the African Union, and is the youngest diplomat and senior official in the Chairperson's Cabinet. She is a Pan-African youth activist on a mission to use her strengths, influence, and voice to lead work that changes the lives of young people across the continent. A big welcome to Chido. I would now like to invite Mitwa Ngame to the stage, the Chief Executive Officer of MTN Rwanda. Welcome, Mitwa. Mitwa is one of the youngest CEOs in the telecommunications industry in Africa. With a career spanning more than 10 years in telecoms, she joined MTN Rwanda in October 2019. And I have to say, Mitwa has become an honorary Rwandan very quickly. So, karibu sana, murakaze neza, Mitwa. Mitwa is a highly respected leader with experience in commerce, technology, and growth strategies. And if you follow Mitwa on Twitter, I think she's probably one of the funnest bosses in Rwanda as well. It's now my pleasure to invite Rita Roy, the President and CEO of the MasterCard Foundation, to the stage. Welcome, Rita. Rita leads the MasterCard Foundation, which is one of the largest private foundations in the world, with approximately 40 billion in assets. Its vision is a world where everyone has the opportunity to learn and prosper. Rita is deeply committed to equity and inclusion and has worked tirelessly to build a foundation that is collaborative and known for bold action and transformative impact. Welcome, Rita. I would now like to invite the Honorary Minister of Youth and Culture from Rwanda, Rosemary Mbabazi. The Minister has served in the government of Rwanda since 2017 as Minister. Her portfolio was initially focused on youth and was expanded to youth and culture. Prior to that, she served as the Permanent Secretary in the Ministries of Youth and ICT, as well as Trade. Welcome, Minister. Can we give a big round of applause for our distinguished panel? So as you can see, we have an incredibly diverse range of people here. I'm glad to see that there are more women than men on the panel. And I am no doubt that we will have an incredibly enlightening and inspiring discussion today. I want to turn directly now to Kaylee. I would love for you to share, what is your vision for the world? What is your vision for the future? We've heard that we need to take charge, and to take charge, we need to know where we're going. So where do you see the world? Where do you want it to go?
I think, first of all, more events like this are awesome. I need to start off by saying I am a disabled person, in case you were wondering. I have cerebral palsy, and I have been a wheelchair user for my entire life. So that's the context that I'm speaking from. But I'm also a young person. I'm also a woman. And I think that it's important to remember all of these different parts of who I am in the world that I want to see in the future, and where we go and how we get there together. I think that there are a couple of things that would be really awesome to have. And I think there are a few ways of accessing it. So I think the first thing would be acceptance. I cannot deny that I am a disabled person. I cannot deny that it inevitably impacts my life and how I experience the world. I think it's important to remember that disabled people are globally the largest minority. But what I think that means and what it gives us is an opportunity. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of untapped, unknown skills. Disability brings us skills. It gifts us with innovation because we have to. I am a very good problem solver. I'm very good at finding, seeing options. I have logistical plans for every possibility most days. And I think that that's important for people to acknowledge that we kind of know what we're talking about. And my experiences as a disabled person bring knowledge, and it needs to be recognized by myself and also by the people around me. And I think we talk a lot about speaking up for the vulnerable. But I think what we need to do more of is making space for the vulnerable to speak for themselves. And to not be so precious about it being my story, because my disability is mine, but it also is shared with everybody that lives life with me. And there are a lot of allies that we can find in those moments, in those conversations, in the way that we expect people to engage with disabled people. And so I think my big vision, big picture, Katie, would be to be able to walk into a room and not be surprised that it's accessible. To walk into a space, to occupy more spaces loudly. I think I'm a pretty loud disabled person. To occupy space and for it to not be a phenomenal thing that I'm here. For it to be standard that disabled people are included in all of the conversations that are happening anywhere. And there was a big push for, in the disability movement of nothing about us without us. And it's moved a little bit more now to nothing without us. And I think that that's crucial in making any kind of progress, is including disabled people and disability, because it's an issue that crosses every possible issue. And if we can support disabled people, then we can support anybody. So I hope that people will come on that journey with us towards that vision.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kaylee. Thank you. That's a very powerful message of nothing without us. And it should be a given. So I really want us to hear Kaylee's message and work towards that in whatever way we all can. Now, the importance of inclusion is without question. And we can only, overcome the challenges that we face as a Commonwealth community by working together as a community. So I want to turn now to Rijve. You're a passionate community development practitioner. What are some of the ways that you use your platform to address issues? And where does your passion come from?
Thank you so much, David. So for me, First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor to be part of this panel, and I would say the youngest panel in the forum. So what we do is like we do three things in Awareness 360. The first thing is youth development programs. We run different youth development programs, and through that, we believe in power of young people, and through that we mobilize young people in different countries, especially in the global south. To date, we have empowered thousands of young people in the global south. And how we empowered them through different trainings on leadership, on community development, on project management, and how to do evaluation and monitor of their projects. So this is one thing that we do with the young people, and another thing that we do is grassroots advocacy. So what we do is like we go to the grassroots communities. We work with different communities like sex workers communities, storage workers, slum dwellers, and also city dwellers as well. So we go up to them and we advocate about different social issues. One of the focus areas that we have is water, sanitation, and hygiene. So we raise awareness about different aspects of WASH. So this is what we do. And another thing is we kind of want to make the bridge between the grassroots activists with the policymakers, and also we want to influence the decision when they make, when they have like different investment on WASH. So we want to like increase those investments by talking to the policymakers.
Yeah, I'm incredibly inspired by that work that you're doing, reaching so many different people in different areas of the community. Where did your passion come from? Where did the idea come to start this? How did you get that energy to take charge of this future that you're creating?
Okay, so growing up, I didn't have a proper childhood. So I was victim of I'm a victim of a child abuse. And I was growing up in a boarding school, and I faced a lot of bullying and corporal punishment. And when I was in my university, so I was doing my university in Malaysia, and this is when I got exposed to a lot of international people, diverse group of people, and I kind of realized that I lack of a lot of skills, which I didn't get when I was a kid. And this is when I kind of took charge of my future, and I thought of, kind of teaching myself all of this, skills. And even I didn't know like how to speak in English. So I kind of taught myself like how to speak in English so that I can, make friends with other people. And this is how like I kind of understood that I need to, take charge of my own future. And then I think this was the turning moment of my life when I realized that, I no longer should just sit back and just, just see like other people are suffering. So I try to help other people by, building this platform. And till date, we have directly benefited 1.1 million people in the global south.
Fantastic. A big round of applause for Rijve. Thank you for sharing. I want to turn now to Kendall, and I want to ask you, what was that moment for you? That you thought, I have an idea for the future. Where did that kind of drive come from? What were the values, and what is your vision for taking charge of the future?
Thank you very much for that question. In terms of that moment, or that spark moment, in terms of
if you
when...
could just move the mic a bit closer, that would be great. Thank you.
So thank you very much for that question. So in terms of, that moment or that spark moment, when we talk about taking charge of our future, essentially we're talking about young persons being at the forefront of, really leading that change. And I think that has been very synonymous with, my growth and my growth path in terms of where, when I look at, sometimes I've always been that person in the room or in the space, whether it be from at school, whether it be at any community, not just to look at a problem, but being able to, not just say, this is the problem, but how could I actively engage in terms of, bringing solution to that problem. So, even that take me back, in the Caribbean at the University of the West Indies, I went into, when I came into school, I just sat there and, you tend to get these, leadership roles ascribed to you. But it's very important, that for young persons who are here and young persons on the wider scale, you do not necessarily need to have a position or a title. Change begins with you as a young person. Every morning that you get up, it's decisions that have to be made. And I think, this team comes at a very critical time in terms of not just, not just looking at the team and, we leaving here and just saying this is a buzzword, but how do we translate that into our personal, lives, and how we, all of us, have to take charge of our future. But I think the pivotal moment for me was recognizing that even coming from the Caribbean, sometimes in terms of, there may be lack of access to opportunities, but not just, being able to, and I know there's always this saying where, if there's a, we're always looking for a seat at the table, but sometimes we as young people need to be creators of that and form our, if you have an idea, whether it's big, small, just get out there and just do it. There would be criticisms, there would be challenges, life is challenging. But, I just want to, take that, in terms of your other question, in terms of my vision for the future. And I really, really like what the first speaker spoke towards inclusion. And, I just want to add to that, because we really need to make society. There's so much challenges, so much things happening across society. So we really need to ensure that we have a very inclusive society. Don't matter what your challenges or no matter your situation is, we need to ensure that we love each other and that we work towards ensuring that the world is such a very inclusive space to all. But it's just going to add one more thing. And I'm going to take the opportunity, because I recognize that there are ministers, there are other persons in the room, and I want to take this opportunity as a call of action. When we say that we're including young persons and we're giving them the the opportunity, I just want to say that it's very important that, and I just want to say going forward, that we allow young persons, and this has been an excellent opportunity, and I want to say commendations to Lodi, Darian, and the entire Commonwealth team and the task force team. But in terms of really taking charge, allowing young persons, not just putting them there as placeholders or saying that we're doing this to include youth, but allow the young people, trust the young people to take the decisions, and to, we may not always get it right, but I think we would learn. And I think once we create that, or we provide those opportunities and actively engage young persons, I think that bodes well for what's creating a common future going forward. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kendall. Kendall said something very special. He said, we love each other. Do we love each other across the Commonwealth? Yes? Can we get a big yeah? I think that's really important. The other thing that he talked about was the need to build our own table. If as young people we're not finding a seat at the table, let's build our own table. And others, I'm sure, will come to us. One of the things you also talked about was the role of young people in defining their own future. And I know, Chido, in your work as the AU Youth Envoy, you must meet so many young people all across the continent. And I'd love to hear from you about your vision and the vision of young Africans and young people that you've been inspired by in your role.
Very much. First of all, it's such an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to interact with young people in this room. When I speak about the vision for the future, I envision a future that is led by young people. I mean, we speak a lot about the Africa that we want, but I envision the Africa that we want, which is for the young people and by the young people. When we speak about aspirations, specifically Aspiration 6 in Agenda 2063, it talks about an Africa whose development shall rely on the potential of its people, especially the young people. And we tend to speak a lot about the demographics too, to say that young people makes the largest population. But how can we ensure that with this largest population and the potential we're talking about in Agenda 2063, Aspiration 6 is fully materialized? I envision a future which is going to be led by young people now. The generation that we have today for young people that will create space for what is to come too. I envision a future which has inclusion. When I look at the young people we have in this room, there are more that are not represented here. There are some that do not even have access to technology or the internet to be able to tune in and listen to the conversations we're having today. We still have young people living in marginalized communities that could not be here today. So when you speak about the future, when you speak about the Africa that we want, indeed it should represent each and every young people across the continent. It should be led by the young people. It should be more about less speeches and more concrete action, and ensure that we really envision and ensure that we really put it into action beyond the demographics too. And in terms of what inspires me, honestly, is the constituency that I represent. It's such a huge responsibility, having to represent all 55 member states within Africa and young people in the diaspora. I mean, I just arrived last night from the United States, where I was engaging with young people in the diaspora, and just listening to their ideas, their vision for Africa, how they want to build Africa, the amazing work that they're doing, even in the United States. Security sector leaders too. I had an attachment at the National Defense University, which was an opportunity to engage with young security leaders, military leaders, police leaders, and these are young people that are representing the continent, that are looking at youth and peace in Africa. Not only that, we talk about public leaders. I mean, right now I see in the room my fellow colleague and friend, one of the youngest deputy ministers from Namibia, Minister Emma Theophilus. That's an inspiration. And everyone in this room is an inspiration for me. We have so many different groups that are represented. We have the NTDs, the young people combating the neglected tropical diseases. We have young people looking at climate change, becoming climate change activists. And for me, that becomes such an inspiration in terms of the vision for the Africa that we want. I'm looking forward to especially learn from the young people that are in this room in terms of the future that we can build together, because we can only do this when we stand together as the young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chido. That's right. We can only stand together. I want to turn now to Mitwa. You are the CEO of one of the largest telco companies in Rwanda, and you employ thousands of people across the country. What is the business case for investing in young people, and what is the return on investment?
David, I think the most obvious answer is found in the demographic of the Commonwealth and also of Africa. With the fact that I think the numbers have been shared quite frequently this morning around how across the Commonwealth, 60% of the population is 30 years old and below. In Africa, the median age is 19, so it'd be foolhardy for us as businesses, as private sector, to ignore this segment of the population. There's no way we're building relevant digital solutions for a population that we do not understand. So it's extremely imperative for us in the private sector and businesses and corporates alike to include that demographic. That's the obvious answer. But I wanted maybe to hint to a little secret to the people in the room around how businesses also have evolved over the last few years. And you hear a lot more of businesses, corporates, private sector players talking a lot about sustainability. And I'm sure that's a topic that we're also going to talk about during the course of the next few days. And because sustainability is such a big focus area for all businesses alike, you hear a lot of conversations around environmental, social governance issues. Now, the reason why I highlight this rather as my answer than the most obvious one being the demographic is the fact that with the high emphasis on ESG and sustainability, businesses are being more attuned to what matters to nation states. Right? So companies such as ourselves at MTN Rwanda, we even go as far as having a motto to say what matters to Rwanda matters to us. And this is not unique to MTN. It's now the evolution of companies and corporates and private sector and businesses in the world today, to the point where if we're saying that what is important to the countries is important to us as businesses to be sustainable into the future, it means that if Rwanda, as an example, sees environmental or carbon emission reduction as important, then we as MTN Rwanda are going to make a carbon net zero pledge. If, for instance, Rwanda is saying that gender empowerment is important, then we as MTN Rwanda are going to form the women empowerment workforces. We're even going to have, for instance, representation targets within the company. Now, I think you can see the pattern, right? So if Rwanda is saying that youth development and youth empowerment is important, guess what the private sector is doing? They're also thinking about how is it that we can place that same level of importance that the nation state does to this particular segment. So my answer to that question would be more a challenge to the young people that be attuned to the way businesses are evolving. And I'm giving you a little insight into what's happening in boardrooms now, right? So we're constantly thinking about how can we bridge the gap between what our intentions are and what the priorities of the nation states are, youth empowerment and youth development being a big one. Now, knowing that about businesses, about private sector, then I would then challenge the youth to say, how well are you positioning yourself to make yourself ready for those kind of opportunities that the private sector and business players are actually looking out for? I'll give you another secret. In the private sector, and I hear this a lot of feedback from young people to say, you know, it's very difficult to approach big companies like MTN. We don't know how to get in. We don't know who to speak to. But the reality is that more times than less, private sector people are actually looking for you. Maybe we just don't have the capacity to engage with everybody at every single point in time, but trust me, our core business, for instance, in MTN is to connect, right? But we are always looking for young, vibrant ideas, which I know are plenty even in this room, in terms of solving societal problems, taking advantage of the opportunities that exist. So it's really about positioning yourself as young people and making sure that you're ready for when that opportunity comes knocking on your door. Granted, we as private sector also have a really huge role to play in trying to bridge that gap, or creating a bridge. Let me say building a bridge between us and the young people so we can walk across and meet somewhere at some point. But the business case, I think, has been spoken about a dime a dozen, and that's why I don't want to speak too much about the demographic and all of that, because the profit case and the business case is there. But I think it's important for us as young people to understand that businesses now are evolving to think more about sustainability, of which the youth form a big part.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mutwa. I think another important aspect of that is the values that young people have. If we ask young people what their values are, they value environmental protection, they value gender equality, they value skills development. So to see and hear MTN investing in that, it makes it an attractive company to be part of. So thank you for sharing. I want to now turn to Rita. The MasterCard Foundation is investing in youth employment, and that's been a big focus of the foundation. I'm wanting to understand what led to that particular focus? What was the rationale, the thinking behind it, and what are some of the impacts that you've seen of your work so far?
First of all, good morning, or is it, it's good afternoon, everyone. It's fantastic to be here. David, thank you for your question. I also want to just say I love all the messages that are coming out from this panel, and it's an honor to be with all of you here today. I think, David, what you're referring to is the MasterCard's foundation strategy, which is focusing on young people. We call it Young Africa Works, and we've set out a bold target of enabling 30 million young people, especially young women, to be able to access dignified and fulfilling work by the end of this decade, by 2030. So it's a bold goal. But it didn't just start out of nowhere. It began with a journey with our foundation, and that journey was so much part and parcel of that journey was listening to young people, working with young people, engaging with young people. And back in 2009, we made a choice to focus on Africa, and clearly because we were attracted by the demographics, but we didn't just see the demographics or needs, we saw opportunity and talent and ideas and ingenuity and energy, and that's been part and parcel of our journey. We began very modestly, working with different organizations. We set out a prize called the Nzisha Prize, for example, focused on entrepreneurs between the ages of 15 and 22. And 10 years later, 150 of those entrepreneurs have created 2,500 jobs. 2,500 jobs, and so it's a journey of discovery, of understanding when young people, regardless of age, regardless of where they've come from, what their background is, with an opportunity, with someone backing that idea, they support other young people and they create change. We formed, we were talking with so many young people, and we formed a youth think tank back in 2012, and we enabled many of them to go do some research Ask people in your community, ask leaders, ask elders, ask people in the private sector, what's needed? What are the opportunities for young people? Bring that back, please, to us so we can start to be influenced by this knowledge and think about it in our programs. We began a major initiative called the MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program back in 2012 as well. 40,000 young people in school, in higher education, in secondary education, and not just finishing school, but really accessing their inner powers, who they are, their leadership capabilities, and their need of service. And I look at those graduates today, including a state minister of infrastructure here in Rwanda, who is a MasterCard Foundation graduate. And I think, wow, that's how the world changes. And that brings me to Young Africa Works and this focus on employment, focus on entrepreneurship. And that goal of 30 million, we have a long way to go. We are just at 10% of that goal, 3 million young people working through the many initiatives across this continent. But what is important as we go through this journey is constantly thinking of some of the themes that came out of this panel. Nothing about us without us. Inclusion. Inclusion for people from all walks of life. People who have been displaced, people living with disabilities, people who have talent, and that there is a place for all of us. And I will just want to end on one other note. We're on a journey as an organization, as a foundation. But everyone here in this room, and for those who are not in this room, I know all of us individually, as leaders and as private citizens, we're on a journey too. But part of getting there, part of taking charge of our future, as Minister Rosemary mentioned a moment ago, is acting now. It's beginning. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rita, for those inspiring words. We've heard from amazing young people. Actually, all the panel are amazing young people. We've heard from youth activists. We've heard from the private sector. I'd now like to turn to the Honourable Minister Rosemary. We've heard about Young Africa Works. We'd also like to hear about Rwanda Works. And as a policymaker, what are some of the mechanisms in place to address the challenges that young people continue to face?
Thank you very much, David. I want to appreciate the panelists and also your leadership in this panel. I feel I'm short of words because they have said it all. And having a lineup of young people speaking about their issues and also having them speak about solutions and what they're doing in their communities is really impressive. As you rightly said, what are the mechanisms in place as government? Probably I'm representing government here as parent. And as government representatives present here, I know everyone is doing a lot in terms of making sure that the young people have space on the high table to discuss issues that concern them. They cannot discuss anything for youth without youth. And so they have to be inclusive. That's why even the Commonwealth and the government of Rwanda, of course, before we started even the busy week of next week, starting today, we had to first listen to you. What are the issues that are really pressing in the community that you want the support of partners present here today? And so the government mostly have, the government of Rwanda, we have put up a mechanism of involving, engaging, and having young people, providing space to hear from them. Because we cannot think for them, we cannot think what they think, we cannot sit in their space and assume, but we want them to be the ones to come up with what else is needed, what is their contribution, and what is the role of other partners, including government. And so we have created spaces where we have the Youth Connect program. We also have Youth Meet the President almost every 3 months, so if they go for 6 months, but with COVID, it was virtual. And so the spaces would allow the young people to bring out their aspirations, their innovations, their agility, their different things that they want to put in place to solve the problems that we experience. So besides space, we also provide participation of young people that is represented by Alodi. She represents a big number of young people in Rwanda as elected chairperson of the Youth Council. And the council cascades from the national level up to Umudugudu. Umudugudu is the last unit of administration, which is a village in Rwanda. So youth are elected at the village, youth are elected at the cell, youth are elected at the sector and the national level, but they're also part of the national, the district councils. We are together with the Minister of Local Government here, and he has the young people in the local administration that is participating in decision-making at the district level. But also we have young people that are representing others in the parliament. Present here today, we have 2 members of parliament below 30 years of age that are into the parliament. So participation in governance is very key, and that's where we allow the young people to have space and be on the table to discuss issues. So what is needed as a mechanism that we could have in space is the political will, the will to do it, the will not only to think about it, but to act on it. Not the will to say they're the numbers. We always talk about the numbers, but how do we put these numbers into action? The other, last but not least, is leverage on partners. There are many partners that we can't do it alone as government. We can't do it alone as young people. We need everybody. Everybody's bringing something on the table that all of us can make it something concrete. The MasterCard, the MTN, and other partners of young people, if we work together, we can get more output, we can have more output and outcomes than when you work alone. So as they say, when you want to go far, go with others, but when you want to go fast, go alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. I think what we've heard is the importance of listening. Listen to each other, listen to young people, and make sure their voices are heard. Also participation and the importance of partnership. I want to turn now back to Kendall, and I want to ask you, what should be the role of young people in creating the world that they aspire to? How do, we've talked about creating the table if there's not a seat added for us, but how do we actually go about doing that?
So as I would have, thank you very much for that question. So in terms of how do we create that table, I think and it's very...
If you could just move a bit closer, thank you.
Yeah. So I think it's very, important, of course, that we really, and I stress this repeatedly, that we really take some personal responsibility for the team of taking charge of our future. And essentially what that speaks to us is ensuring that young persons not just look at the government, not just look at other persons to create that future. And I spoke about, young persons taking we as young persons taking individual responsibility. So if I want to be a doctor, if I want to be, whatever my aspirations are on that personal level. So it starts with a personal responsibility, taking decisions, taking actions. It may be I may be in a different profession or in a different path, but I say I want to be a lawyer or something else. So being able to take charge, pivot where necessary. So taking personal responsibility for taking charge of your personal future. 2, in terms of for young persons who are engaged in, social work or engaging with other or representing young persons, is important for us to really, sometimes we say that we represent young persons, but we don't actually, reach out to the young persons to see, and I think one of my co-panelists here spoke to the fact that there are young persons who, yes, they are young persons, marginalized young persons who may not be actually in this room. So I think, and I also want to tie that to personal responsibility, is that whatever the action outcomes or whatever we decide coming out of this forum, that we, go out, the responsibilities on each of us in this room to go out and implement like small little changes. Takes, something you may be interested in, if not, challenge yourself. So I think one of the most important things, because for young persons is, not just to come to the summit, not just to network, not just to take the nice selfies, but, pay attention, engage, take action. This is not just on the national delegates or the persons who, or the government, but being able to take personal responsibility. We also have other stakeholders in the room, like government, and how do we engage young persons in terms of creating that future. So I would have spoken to personal responsibility. I'd have spoken to young persons who are involved in, like, the social sector or representing and advocacy, but I also want to speak to, business leaders. And of course, I know that my panel, the various panelists has been taking steps, to create that for young persons. But it's very important for government. We see that young persons represent a significant part, 60% of the Commonwealth. But when we see in terms of engaging young persons, and I like when the minister spoke about having actually young people in the parliament, because when we talk about, and I want to encourage us to encourage young persons and for young persons to continue to have young persons in seats of power, as CEOs, as, ministers, as different things. So we're not just saying, being a deputy minister and being, assistant as well, but we also have to trust our young persons to actually take the decisions. And when I say, I'm calling on government, private sector, stakeholders, different persons, not just saying that we're having a young person or we're engaging young persons, but actually put them in the decision-making seat to take the decisions that would dictate and direct our future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kendall. I think that's critically important, and we've talked about this in terms of that idea of inclusivity. So not just about having a space for young people where they can contribute, but actually having young people at the table as well. So thank you for sharing that. I want to turn back now to Chido. Across the African Union, there is incredible, and across the continent, there is incredible work being done by young people working together. So we've heard from Kendall about the importance of taking personal responsibility and young entrepreneurs who are creating thousands of jobs. I want to turn to you now to ask about collaboration. How can young people work together in partnership, as the minister mentioned? And what's some examples of inspiring collaboration that you've seen from young people?
Okay, thank you for that. I think talking about an example, I'll immediately go to this forum. I think this is such a great example by creating that space and creating that platform where young people can get to dialogue and they can get to meet. And such a wonderful event that the organizers have put together for the young people. And I think when it comes to collaboration, definitely creating the platforms for young people to enable them to collaborate, to enable them as well in terms of having access to be able to collaborate amongst one another across the continent. And you find that we have different sectors of young people, some people in the private sector, some young activists, but also finding a way that they can work closely together. Because what I found, especially being in this role, I mean, previously I worked in the private sector for 7 years. I was a banker, and from there moved to climate change, and from here I'm in this public office position. And what I found through that personal experience, drawing back to the personal responsibility, is that there's a way that everything links together. There's definitely a way you can link the private sector to the public sector, to the international development sector, to ensure that we work together and we collaborate and have more impact. So definitely finding a way across sectors to work together, creating the platforms, having the access, but also not even forgetting the resources and building the capacity is also very important, because I know a lot of young people as well, we speak a lot about access to funding and the necessary training. So also being able to build that capacity that will enable us to collaborate to one another. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chido. That idea of creating the platforms and then making sure those platforms are accessible, I think comes back to this strong theme of inclusivity that we've been discussing today. And I want to turn back now to Kaylee. And we're at this incredible forum, Kaylee, where we have members, leaders all across the Commonwealth coming together. What is your message for them? What is your message for the leaders in the room, the leaders of today, the leaders of tomorrow, in terms of the key inclusivity issues that you would like them to address, through the Commonwealth?
Best.
That's great.
No, I think it's important to I'm gonna start with a story. So our organization started 18 years ago when we decided to raise funds for a motorized chair for me. And we were between the ages of 6 and 12. And we fully believed that we could do it. We had no doubts that we were going to achieve our goal. We knew that we were in it for the long haul. We were committed to it until we achieved it. and we keep that attitude going in our work still, where we have the young people asking, why not? That's, as young people, we ask, why not? We don't say, oh, how are we going to do that? We say, why not? And then we figure it out as we go, which is, I think, a really powerful thing that we have the ability to harness. And as a more kind of practical sense and answer to the question, I think there are so many challenges for disabled people around the world, and especially in the Commonwealth, and I think that it's really important to start at the beginning and to remember that disabled people exist as children, and we grow, our needs evolve, and so I think two things that are really important to focus on is first education at early childhood development level, preschool. I think we have an incredible opportunity to mold an understanding of what disability is, to normalize. We don't really like using the word normal, but like to normalize disability in mainstream spaces. We have an inclusive preschool back in Cape Town in South Africa, and it is phenomenal to watch 3-year-olds figure out inclusion without having conferences and forums and discussions. They learn through doing, and we learn through doing it together. And I think that if we can invest in disability and invest in educating disabled kids alongside and with our non-disabled peers, I think that would be really, really powerful in creating an understanding that if you go to school every day and you have disabled kids in your classroom, then when you go to work, when you're older and you don't see us anywhere, you're questioning that. And you're saying, oh, why don't we have more disabled people? Because we're supposed to be there. And I think it's really about figuring out what the need is and then finding the money. Because as disability is often an afterthought, it's often spoken about in terms of, well, if budget allows, then we'll make it accessible, or then we'll figure out how to educate disabled kids. But if we look at the need and say, it's gonna cost this much, and then find that much, and then do it, I think people overcomplicate it a lot, and sometimes it's simple, and solutions exist in every disabled person, and we just need to create the space to have those conversations and to make those investments.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kaylee. I wanted to come back to Rita. I saw you very engaged with what Kaylee was saying, particularly around the point of young people learning through doing. And that seems to be a very powerful call to action. What would your call to action be for young people across the Commonwealth? So
first of all, thank you so much, David. Thank you, Kaylee, for saying, why not? Why not? Yeah, right off the bat. So when I think about call to action, I've got three things with that's how my brain works. So for the first call is is really directed at folks who may or may not be in this room, and that is to employers, whether you're in the private sector or in the public sector. Let's just really listen. Listen to young people, listen and then act. We're trying to walk our own talk at the MasterCard Foundation by creating opportunities for young people, but also create opportunities inside of our house. Our largest segment of employees, 38%, are people under the age of 35. And so I call upon others who are in a position to influence opportunities for young people, whether it's internships, whether it's mentorship, whether it's an opportunity to shadow someone or jobs, to help create those opportunities. That's number one. The second is directed to every young person, every leader, every delegate in this room, in this hall, and who may be listening. Help us. We are in a beautiful city, Kigali, and a country which has already made that jump in controlling COVID. It's not over for many parts of the world, and perhaps even in the countries where you're at. Get the word out, get the facts out, help family, help friends, help people in your social networks, get vaccinated, because that's the pathway to be able to move and to seize opportunity. And then I can't not have a call for young women who are here, who are listening in, just to feel the power in you and your purpose. You deserve to be here, and we are also looking to you for your leadership to change this world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rita. Thank you. That's a very, very powerful call to action and 3 points we can definitely all take away. I want to turn back to Rijve and ask, there's work that you're doing on the ground with grassroots communities in the areas where you work. And I wanted to ask, can you give us an example of ways that young people can respond to that call? Ways that young people, an example of ways that you've seen, have you been inspired by young people changing their communities and taking charge of their future?
Yeah, sure. I think, if I talk about my experience, when, growing up, when I had this hardship, and then when I realized that, I should no longer just sit back and, just let other people suffer and go through the same process that I went through, I wouldn't have been directly benefited this 1.1 million people. So I would suggest all my fellow young people that don't just sit back and don't just plan and don't execute your plan. So even if you fail, you gotta try, because failure is part of your success story as well. And also we need to celebrate our failures as well. So this is part of your whole success story, and in order to make a bigger impact, you need to start at some point, So yeah, this would be my take on this.
Fantastic. We just need to start somewhere.
And I just want to add one more thing. There's this quote from my co-founder, which is, find your passion which bothers you. And yeah, you should look for something which you can relate to your story, because everyone has a story. So find your passion which bothers you, your life, in your community, whatever issues that you're facing which are bothering you, just find your passion and find the solution in it and just start working on it.
Fantastic. I love that. Find your passion that bothers you. I think there's so much strength we can draw from the things that we find, challenging or annoying or frustrating. And I think that brings me to, I want to go over to Mitwa, because you're in an industry that is solving challenges. You're in an industry that is connecting people and solving that challenge of people who are not connected and bringing people into the conversation. So I want to understand from you, what kind of mindset should we try to adopt to drive solutions from grassroots all the way up to senior levels?
I should have acknowledged, David, the first comment you made about me. So he joked about me being one of the coolest CEOs. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But one of the questions that I get as a result is, where do you get your energy? right? So one day you're in the north, next you're in the south, next you're in the east, today you're in the Commonwealth Youth Forum, tomorrow you're in CBF, et cetera, et cetera. And I think for me, the mindset is, maybe it's not even a mindset, it's us as a company and me as an individual being so deeply rooted in my why, right? So why are we doing what we're doing? Making money and making a profit are great. But like I mentioned earlier, profit alone is not what investors and shareholders are looking for, at least not anymore. They're really looking for what is that social impact that you're going to have? What is it that beyond the profit you're looking to achieve through whatever solution you're trying to provide? So being very deeply rooted in your why is what I would consider the most important, especially where the world is changing so quickly and in so many different shapes and forms, that when those tough times hit, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's a bad sales day, et cetera, your why should be so much bigger than that challenge that you face that you'll be able to push through, and therefore also be called one day one of those coolest CEOs.
Fantastic. I think that's a great point. Understand your why. Thank you so much, Mitwa. And I think in understanding that why, we bring meaning to our work and what we're doing, and that can be a great inspiration for us. I want to turn now back to the Honourable Minister, and I want to ask about the work of the Commonwealth. How does the Commonwealth enable governments to work collectively to address some of the issues that young people are facing, and also to create new opportunities? So we have challenges, but we also have opportunities.
Thank you very much. Maybe before we speak about that, how the Commonwealth is supporting all of us, the 54 countries, to come together and solve the challenges of young people, but also support the opportunities. I just want to share how people take charge of their future. Just what inspired me is one of a young boy. I saw him in the media way back like 3 years ago. He's called Rukundo Yasi. He's grade 2, primary 2. And he was going to school and in one of the suburbs in Kigali, and he was going to school, and he found along the way a leaked pipe. The water was pouring out, and everybody saw it and was passing by. But this young man did not continue. He stopped by, and he started fixing the leaking pipe. You can imagine what kind of technology was he using. He started using whatever material he had around him to fix the problem. And that's when everybody wanted to help. But many people passed by, including leaders and other people and business people, passed by. No one thought about it or even thought, this is my responsibility or this is my loss. If there is no water or is leaking right now, maybe we won't have water in the next few days. It will be leaking. And so taking charge doesn't require a lot of education. Taking charge doesn't require a lot of skills. Taking charge doesn't need to have many, many years, almost like the first half coming this side, or having much. It's just a heart, and you take responsibility of whatever. I just wanted to share this young man. He's just 8 years old, and you can see what he did. He has a big heart than anybody else who was passing by. So you can learn from even young children, right when they're playing, whatever they're doing, you can see someone who's going to be in charge of their future or someone who's going to be a spectator. If I come back to the question that you're asking about, how is the Commonwealth supporting us all? The Commonwealth has set up a platform. One of them is this forum where we are right now, and it's one of the top big 4 forums, including Women Forum, including People's Forum, including the Business Forum that is happening next few days. But starting with the young people, it is to listen to you, to get your ideas, to get your motivation, inspiration, your dreams, and how do we support you? Because we want to put you at the forefront of all the decisions what we want to make. So from the decisions that will be made here, the declarations of the young people, they will be taken to the heads of state and governments meeting. There will also be an intergenerational dialogue between the heads of state meeting with the young people to hear more about what you've been discussing here. So this is the space we've been talking about, and this is what the space the Commonwealth is putting together so that we can hear your voices loud and clear. The second one is a ministerial task force that I mentioned earlier that we have our colleague ministers representing. We also listen to what the young people are doing and what they want to implement. And out of this action plan of 2 years, we want to support them to implement. The other element that I want to talk about also is the framework of putting up a youth development index So there is a way that the Commonwealth measures the success and development and kind of key milestone. What do we want to see in terms of youth development and youth empowerment? So there is a report that comes out every 2 years. I think what we have is 2020. We're likely to have another one very soon that is going to be ranking countries, ranking institutions and ourselves as countries that are participating and supporting to see how far have we gone in terms of job creation, employability, climate change, but also governance and the rule of law, and many more indicators that we always track to see how we're doing. So this helps countries to keep on checking themselves, because if you can't measure it, then you can't do anything about it. So you need to be measuring how far we're doing and how we're doing it. So there's a lot happening, and I think we are really grateful for the support of the Commonwealth in convening us together and bringing out the best out of us all. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Minister. That draws us to the closing of this first plenary panel. Thank you so much to our panelists. We've heard today about the importance of inclusivity. We've heard about the importance of taking responsibility. I think one of the powerful things that I've also heard is that we can all take that responsibility. We can all take charge of our future regardless of where we are. We don't need a title, we don't need a table. All we need is that big heart. So a big round of applause once again to our panelists. Thank you so much.
gitambutse mu kanya gatoya cyari kiri kugaruka cyane ku bijyanye n'uruhare urubyiruko rugomba kugira mu gufata nyine inshingano zo kugena ahazaza h'urubyiruko, ahazaza ha Commonwealth, ahazaza